How do people introvert or extrovert their traits? Extrovert and introvert are the social traits. They are about how people interact with the world, about where they direct their energy. The extrovert likes to get their energy from the external world, to be outward in their behavior. The introvert likes to get their energy from their internal world, to be inward in their behavior. The terms introvert and extrovert are used to describe different personality traits related to social interaction and energy orientation. Introverts are generally more focused inwardly, finding solitude and quiet environments energizing, while extroverts tend to seek external stimulation and find social interactions energizing. It's important to note that introversion and extraversion exist on a spectrum, and individuals can possess both introverted and extroverted traits to varying degrees. People can display different traits in different situations or at different times in their lives. While some aspects of introversion and extraversion are believed to be innate, individuals can also adapt their behaviors and develop certain traits through conscious effort and practice. Here are some ways people might influence or express their introverted or extroverted traits. Self-awareness. Understanding your own preferences and habits is a crucial first step. Reflect on how you feel after social interactions and in different environments. Recognize when you need time alone to recharge, which is introversion, or when you crave social engagement, which is extraversion. Socialization strategies. Introverts might benefit from intentionally seeking out social interactions that align with their interests and values. They can choose smaller gatherings or engage in one-on-one conversations to feel more comfortable. Extroverts, on the other hand, can actively seek opportunities to connect with others, join group activities, and participate in events that provide social stimulation. Communication styles. Introverts may prefer to think before speaking, choosing their words carefully and expressing themselves in writing or through more intimate conversations. Extroverts often engage in more spontaneous and expressive communication, verbally processing their thoughts and feelings. However, both introverts and extroverts can adapt their communication styles to suit different situations. Boundaries and self-care. Introverts tend to value alone time for recharging, so it's important to establish boundaries and carve out regular periods of solitude. Extroverts, on the other hand, may need to manage their energy levels by finding balance and avoiding burnout through self-care practices. Environment management. Introverts often thrive in quieter, less stimulating environments, while extroverts may prefer lively and social settings. Individuals can create spaces that suit their needs, such as having a quiet corner for introverted reflection or seeking out social environments that align with their extroverted nature. It's important to note that introversion and extraversion exist on a continuum, and most individuals fall somewhere in between rather than being purely introverted or extroverted. The terms introvert and extrovert are often used as shorthand to describe someone's general inclination, but they do not capture the full complexity of an individual's personality. It's also worth mentioning that introversion and extraversion are just one aspect of personality and should not be seen as determining a person's entire character. People have a wide range of traits and behaviors that go beyond introversion or extraversion, and personality is influenced by many other factors as well. Remember that being introverted or extroverted is not a value judgment, and there's no right or wrong way to be. It's about understanding yourself and finding a balance that allows you to thrive. Embracing and leveraging your natural preferences, while also being open to growth and adaptation, can lead to a more fulfilling and authentic expression of your personality. Conclusion. There are more advanced theories of extraversion and introversion. These involve which trait in your type is the dominant trait in charge, and which traits are auxiliary, and are there to help. The dominant trait you have is the strongest and most important trait in your personality. There is an hierarchy of traits in each personality type, from most important to least important. The auxiliary traits are the traits in your type that are weaker than the dominant trait. Extroverts like to show the world their most dominant trait. Introverts like to keep their dominant trait to themselves. Extroverts like to introvert their weaker auxiliary trait, and keep that trait to themselves. Introverts like to extrovert their weaker auxiliary trait, and show that trait to the world. If this all seems too complex, do what makes you happy. If you are an extrovert or introvert, determines how important you are treated by others in this world. Better to be an extrovert than an introvert, though you should do what you feel most comfortable with. My personal opinion, where are extrovert and introvert traits important, in life as an individual, and in this world? 1. Are you an extrovert or introvert? 2. How do you extrovert or introvert the other traits and their behaviors? 3. What is the role you get to play in society? Is it that of an extrovert or an introvert? 4. How do you manage people and deal with resources? Either extrovert them or introvert them, outward or inward. As an individual, I can control if I am an extrovert or introvert, by my behaviors. In this world, society really does control who gets to play the role of extroverts, and who gets to play the role of introverts. In other words, who has rights, who gets to be heard, who gets to be leaders, and who gets attention to their problems. As an individual, my choice to be an extrovert or an introvert is how I fight for my rights. My personal comments. The history of humans on Earth is who gets to play the role of the extrovert, and who gets to play the role of the introvert. Even if as an individual, a person might be an extrovert or introvert, the role they play in society might be the same as what they are, or the opposite. In other words, who are the people you see in charge? They are the people who get to play the role of extroverts in society. The reality is that life is about control. Traits are controlled by the ego. Whose ego though is in control? My ego or the ego of society? Who gets to be extrovert or introvert? Who gets attention, power, and control? Whose ego is in control of my traits? Who tells me what I can, or can't do? Hopefully my ego, as an individual, is in charge of me. That's not true all the time, as people can see in their actual lives. Then what I can do, is focus on what I can be, as an individual. Think of extrovert and introvert as two people inside you. The person you side with, is who is in charge of you. That person affects your decisions, affects the outcomes and results in your life. There are consequences with who you side with. There are consequences with which side of you, extrovert or introvert, has strength, or has weakness. A healthy ego somehow manages to balance these traits and behaviors, and uses them, when they need to be used. If either of these traits, extrovert or introvert, gets out of control, with too much strength for one, and too much weakness for the other, that's when you have problems.